I'm Beth Guckenberger, and this is the Reckless Faith Podcast. We're back today again with Rob Hall, my friend.
I love how you introduce me like that on every show.
You are my friend and colleague here at Back to Back Ministries.
It's good to be with you. You know, I was thinking this is day 4, and a lot of people may be into all of this. And I just wanted to take a shout out for not only are you an author and a speaker, your day gig is the co-executive director at Back to Back Ministries. And so people may get to the end and say, what is this backtoback.org/40 days? That's kind of your day gig. So just remind people that you have a job at Back to Back.
I sure do. I am. I always say that my job is as the chief talker, but I mean, that's not really my job title. But my husband and I lead the organization, which works with orphans and vulnerable children in 9 countries around the world. And it has been a privilege to be a part of this story and to co-labor with everyone that we do.
And it's a privilege to do it with you. Day 4 is 1 foot in eternity. Yes, saying yes to sacrifice. And I really love the story about Pepe that's in day 4.
Yeah, Pepe's one of the first Mexicans that I felt like we are spiritual siblings. Like he got me from the very beginning. I got him from the very beginning. And I maybe knew 100 words to put together in Spanish. Like there's something in our spirits that responded to one another. Even though he never called me by my right name, he couldn't say the TH in Beth and he couldn't say the double D in Todd. So he called us Tom and Betty. But whenever Tom and Betty went to fellowship and co-labor beside Pepe, he was unafraid. He was unafraid of someone's hard story, unafraid of any circumstances, unafraid of tight corners and backs against the wall. And there was something wildly attractive to me about him and about that. And he was many, many years my senior and has now gone on home to be with the Lord. But Pepe left an indelible mark on my life.
I love how you tied Hebrews 12:1 into day 4. I don't normally think about Hebrews 12:1 as saying yes to sacrifice. It's really about being surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. How did you tie those two things together?
Yeah, Pepe made a series, and his wife made a series of sacrifices in order to build the ministry that they were experiencing. And some people who would walk in and see it after he had already taken over the city block and the part of our town that the police wouldn't even go to, it was so dangerous. They were quick to lift him up. And when I would hear him talk about the early days of his ministry and kind of the initial obstacles and the opposition and the challenges he faced, I realized what tremendous blessing sat on top of unbelievable sacrifice. And I think we sometimes are attracted to blessing and want blessing and ask for blessing and uphold blessing and celebrate blessing, forgetting that what comes prior to it is a whole bunch of obedience and sacrifice.
Yeah, so with 1 step in eternity, the title here of day 4, Pepe really was that for you. You could see that sacrifice was not tied just to what he was doing here, but he already had 1 foot into eternity. Are there some other people that you can think of that kind of are part of that great crowd of witnesses now, like Pepe is?
Yeah, I like that idea. Todd and I traveled with Ray Vanderlaan, the Bible teacher to Israel, a number of years ago. We sat in one of these old arenas, and we read this passage in Hebrews, and Ray talked a little bit about the people, like that metaphor and the idea of the games, and that there are people that cheer you on while you work out your faith down there and run the race, and you do it with a kind of passion inside of you. And I realize that some of the people in my cloud of witnesses in my stands cheering me on actually have voices and text me on a regular basis and say, keep on keeping on. But some of them are in heaven. And one of them, is one of our founding board members passed away this year. And reflecting on his life and the ways in which he cheered us on during the 20 plus years of ministry, I realize what a big impact he made on Todd and I and still makes now from his seat in heaven. I can remember one time we were going to visit a children's home that was like 5 or 6 hours from our house. And I said, let's not go empty-handed. Let's take some food with us. And so we went to the grocery store to buy some food. And he was putting more food in the cart than what I had told him I thought we should take. And I said, let's not take all that. And he said, well, let's do as much as we can. I said, they don't even have a refrigerator. Like it's going to go bad before they can eat it all. And he goes, they don't have a refrigerator. Well, we're in the wrong store. So we drove to an appliance store, and I was on the end of the aisle that had the more economical and affordable options. And he was over there on the high end section. And I said, "What are you doing over there? Like, they're going to just be excited to have refrigeration." And he stopped me and put his hands on my shoulder and he said, "Beth, when you give gifts for Jesus, you need to give the brass ring, not the baseline."
Wow.
And I think about that. I think about that when I realize that I'm interacting at times with people who don't otherwise know who the Lord is. And as his representative on earth, their interaction with me is a reflection of their understanding of him. So yes, we should be giving brass ring and not baseline.
Gosh, I love that story. The action step today is about voices in your head. And it sounds like Mike and Pepe, and I'm sure many others, are voices in your head that speak that kind of truth about who Jesus is. They're your witnesses, your witnesses who are helping you live this faith. Some of them still here with one foot in eternity, and some who have 2 feet firmly planted in eternity. The action step for today is whose voice is in your head cheering you on towards righteousness. Write them a letter and thank them, even if they are now in heaven. Include in your letter how you are passing along their inspiration as a witness to others. I love this action step. Talk about when you did it.
Yeah, when I did it, I was surprised that I ended up choosing my great-grandmother. I never met her. She's part of our family lore. She and my great-grandfather were church planters. And I realized, part of our family lore is that she was the better speaker and that my great-grandfather often helped neighbors complete their chores farming in the Northern Ohio farming communities so that they would have the margin to attend the services on Sunday. He had gifts of helps and service and humility and encouragement and exhortation, but she was the better communicator. And I think today, I often am in a Sunday morning in a church and they, maybe aren't usually used to having a woman open their Bible. And I think that some of the confidence I have in the calling God has for me is because she taught my grandmother, who taught my father, who taught me that a woman can open the Word of God.
Is it too vulnerable to ask you some of the things you wrote to her? What things did you write down?
I just wrote to her that I recognized that she had her eyes fixed on Jesus. Because if in 2019 I have people telling me that women shouldn't open their Bibles on a Sunday morning, then I'm positive in 1903 and 19, through the next 40 years of their ministry, that she had people who doubted that God could talk to her, or that she had the space and privilege to share it, and that she must have had her eyes fixed on Jesus, and they must have had a pretty healthy and an unbelievable marriage, that they allowed each other to operate in their gifts. And so I wrote a little bit about what my marriage is like and the gifts that Todd has and the ways he uses them in our organization and how he makes room for me and I make room for him.
Yeah. Hey, if you have Reckless Faith, a 40-day journey to saying yes, we're really hopeful that our podcasts are providing you with some encouragement and spurring you on to have meaningful conversations today with God and with other people. If you're here and haven't yet gotten a copy, you can find it on Amazon, or for the book and other resources, you can visit backtoback.org/40 days. That's BACK, the number 2, BACK.org/40 days.
Oh, thanks for being on this journey with us as we all traveled towards a more reckless faith. And until next time.